Hello and welcome to the Comic Cave. I'm Ramsey, aka Captain Away, and today I'm looking at the 2010 to 2011 series, Brightest Day. Geoff Johns brought back both Barry Allen and Hal Jordan from the dead in the stories Flash Rebirth and Green Lantern Rebirth, and with both stories helped redefine the major mythology surrounding the characters and set the groundwork to launch a plethora of new stories building on that mythology. The primary outcome of this was the creation of the zombie-like Black Lantern Corps, which led to the major event story Blackest Night, which I covered in October, and you can click up here for the full breakdown. The Blackest Night saw this personification of death named Nekron attempt to bring an end to all life in the universe. But thanks to the discovery of a White Lantern battery and the will to live, the Blackest Night was ended and a number of dead characters were revived. All of these guys. They then all go on to be the primary characters for the Brightest Day event, though we'll really only focus on Aquaman, Deadman, Firestorm, Hawkman, Hawkgirl, and Martian Manhunter, who are all tasked with challenges to complete by the White Lantern entity. The rest are given challenges too, but Yobard Thawne, the Reverse Flash, was tasked with rescuing Barry Allen from the Speed Force, which he did in Flash Rebirth, so his job is done. Captain Boomerang's task is just to throw a boomerang, so he's in the event, but I mean, that's not much story that has to be told. Jade, Osiris, and Maxwell Lord are also given tasks, but we don't see them played out here, and instead they're covered, I guess, in other titles. And I'm just going to say right now, I'm not going to cover all those titles like I did all the tie-ins to Blackest Night. That's because Blackest Night was a single focused event around a single story, and Brightest Day was just kind of a banner DC put on pretty much all their comics coming out for pretty much a full year. I mean, maybe if you guys really want me to, I'll try to get to them all eventually, but for now, we're just doing the main event, so let's see what challenges await our contestants and take this away. The comic opens on Dead Man, looking more like Live Man. Live Man? Life Man. Standing over his own grave. If this was an indie movie, this would be time for some sappy sad song the director thinks is super meaningful and probably some rain. But this isn't an indie movie, this is the Brightest Day, so it's all sunshine and sledgehammers over here. Once Dead Man's done smashing up his own headstone, he notices a dead baby bird on the ground nearby. Aw, that's sad. But not too sad, I guess, because a white light comes out of nowhere and tells the baby bird to live, and so it does. The light then grabs living Dead Man and teleports him on a giant magical mystery tour around the universe, primarily going one person at a time through all the other revivees, catching up on what they're all doing, but also bringing him to Star City, still devastated from the supervillain Prometheus recently trying, and failing, to teleport part of the city through time and space, instead causing a massive earthquake-like disaster. With help from the white light, Dead Man grows a giant star-shaped forest in the center of the city to fill up the devastated portion. We'll see later that one of the trees is particularly important, this one with the White Lantern symbol on it. We'll get back to the tree, Dead Man, and their roles in the story in a minute. But first let's check in on the stops of the magical mystery tour, starting with Aquaman. Aquaman's return reunites him with his wife Mera, and apparently the two waste no time getting back to celebrating his return. They're nice. The duo are soon in on action of another variety, rescuing some children from some pirates out on the seven seas. But when Aquaman attempts to summon one of his fishy friends to help deal with a second pirate boat, he finds that he accidentally summoned a giant mo-effing zombie kraken. Oh shit! Into Zombie Shark 2? Man, that's no good. Looks like Aquaman might still be part Black Lantern. They're not about to let a little thing like summoning zombie sea life stop them from being superheroes though, and Aquaman and Mera are soon cleaning up an environmental disaster at an offshore oil platform just off the Bermuda Triangle. But this wasn't no man-made disaster, it looks like this was sabotage! Because immediately Arthur and Mera get attacked by a bunch of fish people, including this lady who just seems to be a palette-swapped Mera. Lazy animators couldn't even give us a whole new costume. Not Mera and the Fishmen, which is not a good band name, come from a place called Zebel. Jebel? Jabel? Anyway, they come from the place named with this word, which is also Mera's home. The Jebelites were once Atlanteans, but after a bloody civil war were sentenced to an eternity in a penal colony in the Bermuda Triangle. Mera was raised to hate Aquaman and the Atlanteans, which is a slightly better band name, and was actually originally sent from Jebel to kill the Fish King, but instead ended up falling in love with him and joining the side of good. Which is good news for us, cause Mera's pretty awesome. She thought her betrayal didn't really matter because her people were trapped away forever, but it looks like they're out now, and led by Mera's sister, who is actually named Siren, they're thirsty for blood. But while they're fine with any blood, they're also looking for specific blood, the blood of a young man named Jackson Hyde, who the entity tells Aquaman needs protecting. Jackson seems to have some water-based powers, and his father, realizing he can't hide the truth from the boy any longer, explains to him that he was actually brought to them by Mera, who wanted Jackson to be protected. Protected from who, you ask? From the freaking Black Manta! Manta, it seems, had gone into retirement after Aquaman's death, but with the news of the hero's return, he literally burns down his new life and returns to his old life. Man, that Black Manta sure is single-minded. It seems Manta is Jackson's real father, and before he was even born, he and his mother were kidnapped from Manta and then experimented on by the Jebelians, Mera's people, which is why he can vaguely control water. Certainly enough to kick some Black Manta ass. While he's able to rescue his new dad from his old dad, Jackson isn't able to stop Manta completely, and Manta shoots a deadly dart at new dad to kill him. And he would have succeeded too if it weren't for that pesky Aquaman. Man, I've never been so glad to see Aquaman. Aquaman and Jackson managed to get away long enough for Mr. Curry here to explain to the boy more about his origin, including the fact that he gets these cool little things that allow him to focus his water powers into deadly weapons. If you can't tell, yes, Jackson is Calder from the Young Justice cartoon. Though he technically appeared in Brightest Day number 4 just a few months ahead of the first episode of the cartoon, as far as I can tell, he was actually developed for the cartoon and brought into comic book canon in this story. Siren and all her fish people launch an attack on an unsuspecting beach full of people, but Aquaman, Mera, the newer Aqua Girl Lorena Marquez, and Jackson, serving as potential Aqualad, defend the beach from the attackers. The fight isn't going particularly well for the outnumbered heroes, especially once Mana shows up out of nowhere and cuts Aquaman's freaking hand off. Oh shit, not again! Oh, sick burn, Manta. Sick burn. In order to turn the tide of the battle, literally, Mera pushes her water controlling powers to a new limit, literally pulling the tide back into a giant, massive tidal wave. Holy crap, Mera is awesome. She then uses the waves to grab up all the fish people and shove them back down into their cage at the bottom of the ocean, and Jackson's own powers serve as a key to lock the door behind them. With Aquaman's challenge of securing the safety of Jackson Hyde complete, the white entity declares his job done, and Deadman appears out of nowhere to blast him with white energy and make him disappear. So it's time to move on to Martian Manhunter, whose story starts as a mystery. As he is busy trying to rebuild life on Mars, he receives a vision about the first day he came to Earth, only the vision is altered from how he remembers it. Investigating, Manhunter learns that the doctor who initially summoned him to Earth had a daughter, and though her mind is going, he's able to use his psychic powers to learn from her that there is another green Martian on Earth. So he goes to the only other Martian he knows about, Miss Martian of the Teen Titans, only to find she's already been attacked by the other green Martian. Like with Black Manta, when this other green Martian, Decay, saw that Martian Manhunter was alive again, she also went a bit crazy and cut all ties to her current life. Again, quite literally. And yeah, this second green Martian is a female, so her goal isn't to kill Manhunter, it's to make babies. Continue the race. Unfortunately, she's a complete nutbag, and our boy Eminem isn't into that. She tries to trick him into severing his ties to Earth by convincing him the Justice League have turned against him, but he doesn't fall for it. Instead, it makes him so angry that he smashes her into the ground and keeps smashing until he summons the white light and ends up resurrecting all of Mars. Hey, sweet deal. Eventually, with the help of his fellow Martians, Manhunter brings peace to the Earth. And 20 years after that, the Justice League, all old men now, come visit Manhunter up on Mars in order to celebrate. But while there, someone starts killing them off one by one, and Manhunter quickly realizes that this isn't a mystery, it's his mind telling him to wake the F up. When he does, Decay tries to explain that in all the time she was pretending to be his wife in his vision, he slept with her and now she's pregnant. but Manhunter determines that in actuality, she's barren. Man, I actually feel kinda sorry for Decay right now. I mean, though, she did trick him into an extended nightmare vision that allowed her to essentially rape him, but, I mean, man, there's a lot going on in this comic that I'm not sure the creators really gave much thought to, honestly. It's a bit problematic. Manhunter is completely unforgiving, and grabbing Decay, he flies them both straight into the sun to burn up. The White Lantern says, hey, you did the right thing, and rewards him by returning him to life and then asking him to choose between his two worlds. Manhunter concludes he can't keep split allegiances and decides to devote himself entirely to defending Earth. That decision made, he is also disintegrated by Deadman, bringing us to Hawkman and Hawkgirl. Just before Blackest Night got all going, Hawkgirl finally admitted her love for Hawkman, a love she spent a lifetime denying despite Hawkman's insistence that they were continually reincarnated lovers from ancient Egypt. Yeah, I don't get it either, Hawkman. That line sounds like it would totally work on any lady. Once Blackest Night was over and the Hawks were returned to life, Shiera finally remembered all her past lives, allowing the Hawks to finally realize their love for each other. So like Aquaman and Mera, the two immediately get on with each other, although they're spending more time remembering past lives than actually getting busy. Which is good because it means they haven't gotten too far along when they're suddenly interrupted by a star sapphire crystal attaching itself to this glove called the Claw of Horus. What do I think it means, Carter? I think it means you're building yourself a Moeffin Infinity Gauntlet. Instead of leading them to the remaining Infinity Gems though, the gauntlet leads them to some scientists who have dug up the bones of the very first lives of Hawkman and Hawkgirl. They follow the scientists to their ancient enemy, Half-Set, who has been building an entire Stargate out of the bones of their previous incarnations. I mean, everyone needs hobbies, Half, but that's a little weird. For those not in the know about the Hawks, Half-Set here is the one who cursed the Hawk pair originally, setting things up so that if he kills them both, then he also gets reincarnated, locking the entire trio into an endless loop of reincarnation. Hawk's man and girl follow Set through the Stargate to a world called Hawkworld, where all the inhabitants are animal people. It seems long ago this world served as a bridge between Earth and Thanagar, and humans came from Earth to conquer Hawkworld. And then when I guess that wasn't enough, they went on to Thanagar, which I believe is the first canonical confirmation that Thanagarians and humans are basically the same species. Just Thanagarians interbred with Hawk people from Hawkworld. Yeah. The current ruler of Hawkworld is also a human, but not just any human, Shiera's mom. It seems she and Half-Set both actually set the original curse on the Hawks, but she's been trapped all this time in Hawkworld. Now that they're reunited again, they can all be a happy, murderous family together. Or not. Hawkgirl manages to kill Half-Set, Xenia Onatopp style, but not before Mama Hawk opens a pathway to yet another world, the homeworld of the Star Sapphires. The two Hawks follow her through the portal, but when they get there, Mama Hawk bonds with the living embodiment of love, as it's fascinated by her and her complete lack of feeling of any kind of love. But the power of love between the Hawks proves greater than her emptiness, and she, gets dragged away by the bones of the Hawk duo's previous incarnations to somewhere, I guess? It's not very clear. So the two Hawks finally get back to the business they were getting into at the beginning of their story, but again, luckily, they don't get very far because this time they're interrupted by Deadman. Man, that could have been very awkward. I guess it still kinda is when Deadman simply disintegrates them like he has everyone else. Man, we're talking like 2 entire millennia of cockblocking. That's gotta be tough. So next up is Firestorm, or at least Ronnie Raymond and Jason Rush, who have both been Firestorm at one point or another. Their story starts with Gehenna's funeral after she was, turned to friggin' salt during Blackest Night. God, that's still such a messed up death. When Jason gets mad enough at Ronnie at the funeral, he takes a swing at the OG Firestorm, only to cause the two to end up merging together into a new Firestorm. In their new combination, they find themselves unable to break apart as easily, and to make matters worse, Ronnie starts hearing unexplained voices. It looks like the salt ghost of Gehenna is hanging around haunting Ronnie. Ooh. Professor Stein begins to theorize that all the changes are due to the Firestorm matrix that created Firestorm reaching its final form. It seems Firestorm was created by the professor trying to research the Big Bang that began the universe, and what he created wasn't just a superhuman, he created something with the potential for a second Big Bang that could completely restart the universe, leaving only Ronnie and Jason still alive. And Deathstorm, apparently, because the moment they learned this, we also learned that the Black Lantern Firestorm, Deathstorm, was hiding away inside of them all along. Somehow. Andy pops out, sucks up Professor Stein, and then for good measure goes to Jason's house and sucks up his father, and then heads off to the White Lantern. The White Lantern appeared in a crater at the end of Blackest Night, and we did get a brief glimpse earlier at how nobody could lift it. But Deathstorm manages to corrupt it with some blackness, and once he does, he's able to fly off with it. Firestorm follows him to Deathstorm's master, which is apparently the Mo-effing Anti-Monitor, yo. The Anti-Monitor wants to use the White Lantern to create life that he can then absorb to endlessly power himself up. Since being born in the antimatter universe, he eats regular matter to get more powerful. Something like that. Firestorm attempts to attack A&M without a whole lot of success, and a beam from the big guy splits the two back to their disparate parts. Deathstorm then attempts to turn Jason into salt like he did his girlfriend, but Ronnie jumps in front of him to stop that from happening. But Professor Stein, who somehow materialized outside of Deathstorm, jumps in front of Ronnie to instead be the sacrifice. Firestorm's anger over the death of his father figure causes the White Lantern energy to flare, killing Deathstorm and teleporting the heroes back to Earth. To Star City, in fact, where we can finally get to the finale. Because it turns out what all this has been about is that Nekron somehow managed to survive being destroyed at the end of Blackest Night by melding into the body of Swamp Thing. As the living embodiment of planet Earth, Swamp Thing plans to get to Star City in order to destroy this White Lantern tree. Because, reasons, I'm sure. To stop him, the White Entity has turned the heroes into living embodiments of Earth, Fire, Wind, and Water. And, okay, sure. The Hawks as wind, fine. Firestorm as fire, I mean, obviously. Aquaman as water? Like, okay, sure. I mean, there are more fitting people who appeared in his story, like, I don't know, the lady who freaking controls water? But, yeah, sure. But Martian Manhunter as Earth? Really? I feel like you were just really stretching for an extra slot there, Geoff Johns, but okay. Here Captain Boomerang shows up to finally throw his boomerang, because he had to have some job, and what else can he really do? Another one where it kind of just feels like Geoff Johns wanted to bring the character back and didn't have much of a reason. Hawk, not of Hawkman and Hawkgirl, just, you know, Hawk of Hawk and Dove, is supposed to catch the boomerang, but he fails. So it flies at its intended target, Dove. Now, Dove has been spending most of the story with Deadman, after the White Lantern ring kinda creepily dropped him in her room in the middle of the night while she was sleeping. The two spend a lot of time together trying to figure out the mystery of what is going on, and Dove helps Deadman rediscover the joys of living, both through his love of hamburgers and his love of sex. Yeah, that's right, the two get it on. Yeah. So not able to stand the thought of living without Dove, Deadman takes Hawk's job and catches the boomerang himself. Which would have been good if he didn't catch it with his chest. Ooh, poor choice, Deadman. But his sacrifice provides the life energy the White Entity needs in order to resurrect Alec Holland, who is then able to form a living Swamp Thing to fight away the zombie Swamp Thing. Now, perfectly symmetrical violence never solved anything. Except here, I guess, because good Swampy severs bad Swampy's Black Lantern connection, bringing an end to the corruption. The four elements are then restored to life, with Aquaman even getting his hand back. But Hawkman not getting Hawkgirl back because, I don't know, because she was a woman, so obviously she didn't matter anyway. Deadman becomes, well, Deadman again, floating around as a ghost stuck on Earth once more. Firestorm is apparently now armed with a 90-day countdown until the end of the universe, which sounds bad, but we get no resolution to that here. Swamp Thing restores the green of the entire world, though I'm not entirely sure what that means, and apparently he goes a little far with his new job, even murdering the corporate suits that ran the company responsible for that oil spill at the beginning. Well, I'm sure they deserved it. But someone comes later to investigate that crime scene. A little someone named John Constantine. And that, believe it or not, is where this story ends, so let's dissolve into the breakdown. Okay, is mostly what I have to say about this. Honestly, about as much happens here as in Blackest Night, maybe even a little less, but it takes about 3 times as long to get it to happen, which is fine. There's so much viewpoint switching, like, constantly. I mean, here's just some of my notes that I was using to keep track of each of the stories. That the story stays fresh enough and interesting enough to keep you going. I expected the frequent artist changes to be a problem, which they were doing undoubtedly to meet deadlines, but they're all surprisingly competent enough and consistent enough to not prove disruptive to just binge reading through the series. So that's good. The ending feels pretty rushed after how long the rest of the story was dragged out and is honestly kind of a letdown. It really seems more than anything that they were setting things up to be like, hey, here's the setup going into the new 52, even though we're going to reboot the whole damn universe to get there so it doesn't actually matter, but here we are. So I'm giving this a series recommendation level of medium. Honestly, it's a pretty take it or leave it story. Blackest Night was much better, but it's not like this is bad or anything, just maybe a little slow. The collected editions get 2 Green Lantern rings and 1 Blue Lantern ring. Following the order I said in my Blackest Night reviews, that means that it's, not bad. Which then breaks down like this. All the volumes have more than the standard 6 issues of a trade paperback, with Volume 2 having 9 issues and Volumes 1 and 3 having 8. But with the first and last issue of the series being double-sized, and the introductory issue 0 also being giant-sized. So Volume 1 actually has a nice page count. Every volume has a variant cover gallery, but only Volume 3 has any bonuses beyond that, with some bonus sketch art, so it gets a slight edge over the other two. Thanks everybody for watching. Happy New Year! My goal for this year is to finally get to some of the requests that have been made, particularly New 52 Wonder Woman, Killing Joke, and some Rebirth series like Superman and Super Sons. As always, feel free to suggest something you would like me to cover, and make sure to click that subscribe button so you'll be sure not to miss it. Hope to see you next time, right here in the Comic Cave.